Hi class. So to finish off step 3 of turning this paper or this HTML site, we've added some structure, but it's not particularly easy to read here. And inside the HTML file, I went ahead and built like a sort of list of check marks that go through the things we're going to do. But we've got the links, we've got links going down to the Works Cited, and links that go to the sections. What we want to do now is style this. And some of the things that we want to style, we want to add some space around the file and give it some edge so that it's not reading clear across the page. We want to add some spacing between the lines so it's easier to read. It'd be nice to do a little bit with the fonts and clean that up. And is there anything I'm missing? So the things that I've gone ahead and set up for this one, I'm just going to show you these and go through them one at a time. Inside the header, you can have a separate style sheet, or you can have a style sheet, as they say, embedded in the page. So for this one, since it's all just one page, it didn't make sense to have a separate style sheet for this. So we're going to put the style inside that header. And the first point we're going to put here, let's see if I can go and make that a little bigger so you can see it a little better. So inside the style, the first thing we have is the body declaration with the bracket and the bracket. And the things that I've set up here to change, the first thing is the font family, which I went with Gaudi Old Style because it looks it seems to go with a paper about the 19th century. And then as backups, Time New Roman, Georgia, and Times, and Serif. On the next line, I set the font size to be 1.1 M, and the M is the width of a letter M, so it's a variable. If the person wants to make it smaller and bigger, they can, but it sets up the ratios here. The line height I set to 1.4 M, which gives us a little bit of space. Put a border around the body that's 1 pixel and it's a solid gray, and then added padding of 10% around that and a width of 40%. Another thing I did to just sort of make sure that this is just sort of a setting to make sure that the header looks right, because playing around with it, it was getting too crunched together. So I just set the line height for the H1 to be normal to protect the look of the title because it's so long. It's a long title. Another thing I did to tweak the look of this is just to create the nav bar to set the font family to be Arial or sans serif, and I made it a little bit smaller, set it to 0.8 M. So that just seemed like it would make sense. And then the last thing that I did is I set these classes up with a .bib and a .cite. I'm not sure I meant to differentiate these, but when you have the .bib and you have the .cite, notice that the padding left is set to 5 Ms, which creates some space on the left, and then the text indent is a -5 M. So what that does is it creates the hanging indent that you want in a bibliography or something like that, so that you can scan down and see the author's name, particularly in an MLA style. So when you apply all this, so I hit the wrong tab. So here I am in the right tab, and you can see the difference right between where we were before we did any styling, and here we are after having done the styling. The navigation bar looks more like links, and the font makes things look a little bit 19th century and looks clean. There's one other tweak I did as far as the line breaks in here, and that is, let's go to the HTML. So if we'll go to the HTML, I'm going to go view, Oh, I'm in the wrong one here. So Chrome, View, Developer, View Source. So when you view the source, you can see here's the style sheet that's been embedded. Here's the checklist of the tasks that we're going through to do. But there were a couple of places where titles that should have been italics were not made italics. Oh, and the other thing I was going to show you is headings in the text. Like one thing that HTML doesn't do a particularly great job of is it makes headings be evenly split, so they're not closer to what they go with. So what I did was above, right in between the div sections, I created, put in a line break in between those at the end of each section, which makes a little more space right above the heading so that this heading looks like it goes with what goes below. Now these are just tweaks to fix those things and to fix the titles of books to make sure they are, and articles to make sure those are italicized. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else to make sure we went over. And then, yeah, just I should show you the hanging indent. So if we go down, if we just go down to the notes and the works cited, you can see how the hanging indent has been created. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to show you is just to catch in the distribution of new knowledge. Right, there was a title in there that I wanted to make sure I got, but this should get you done with creating, right, a page that is extremely readable and has links, right, going through all the sections of your paper. Once we have this done, right, then I'm going to be sending around an email that has the ways we're going to create a little mini 4-page, very small website where you take this and convert it into chunks, and you're really going to work with only 3 chunks out of your paper and be thinking about how to what that revision calls for, the little tweaks, as that website will say. So at this point we're done with this the text to hypertext version 1, and now moving on to text to hypertext number 2.